Okay, guys, thank you so much for hopping on tonight. I'm Dr. Chris Frickman. I am a chiropractor and a registered nurse, and I own Drip IV. And tonight we're going to go over EBO2. So thanks so much for joining us. I want to just start out by saying that Drip IV, we're really not focused on trying to like treat diseases so much, but we are really trying to help promote healing and health in the body. And so everything that we do is coming, that's our approach. Whether we're talking about ozone, like we're going to talk about tonight, or NAD, glutathione, Trudose, like all the different cool things that we do. Sometimes people do have diagnosed diseases or syndromes or conditions, and a lot of these things can help for that, for those things. And so sometimes we can talk to those things, but we're really not focused on trying to treat conditions and diseases as much as we're trying to promote healing in the body. So I just kind of wanted to start by saying that. And with that, I am going to share my screen here, and we'll get going. Okay, guys. Hopefully you can see this. It says Drip IV, EBO2, the power of ozone. So today, so this is just talking about this series, and this is just an idea that we're having that, we started doing these Trudose calls, and people have been asking for education. And so we're gonna try this with a few different things. Tonight is gonna be ozone, specifically EBO2, but we can touch on other ozone therapies. And we are going to do one on NAD, and I think the NAD one is going to be about not just NAD, but also just how to help cellular energy and mitochondria. And so we're probably going to talk about methylene blue and CoQ10 and some other things along with it on the same day. We are going to go into our lifestyle drips at some point, kind of talk about the immune bags, the recovery bags, the super bags, and all the constituents in those. We're going to talk about the cardiogram. We have a functional myocardiogram. It can help to look at heart disease in a preventative fashion. It can find things 6 to 8 years ahead of what traditionally you can do in a cardiologist's office. So it's very powerful from a preventative standpoint. So, and we'll probably do more also. So thanks for joining us tonight, and maybe you can join us for one of the future ones too. So we're going to start out, and I just thought I would like set the stage. So ozone, first of all, I'll just start off by saying ozone it's like oxygen in that oxygen is O2. There's two atoms of oxygen that come together, and that forms a molecule of oxygen. And then sometimes in the right conditions, you can get a third atom of oxygen together with that O2, and then that's O3. The difference is, of course, we breathe oxygen that's necessary for life. You guys know that. There's lots of it in the air, like 21% of our air is oxygen on average. And but ozone it's more of a free radical, or it has more oxidative value than oxygen does. So it just to kind of like set the stage of what ozone is, it's actually a form of oxygen, you could call it, and it's a powerful oxidant. And so regardless of like what kind of ozone we're talking about, whether you're doing like an ozone sauna, or you're doing like ozone to clean your car out, or you're doing EBO2 or whatever, it's the same molecule of ozone. but different routes of administration can achieve different things. Okay, so we'll go over that a little bit. Kind of focused on EBO2, but I wanted to try to give you an idea of like the differences too, hopefully. So first of all, I was just going to say there are different kinds of ozone. We're going to mostly talk about IV ozone. But you can also do nasal insufflation, it's called. So that's ozone in the nose. There is a special way that you have to do that because you don't want to breathe ozone, actually. Maybe you've heard that, and that is actually true. You don't really want to breathe ozone. It can damage your lungs if you do it the wrong way. There's a safe way to do it, though. And so that's called nasal insufflation. There's also auricular insufflation, which is in your ears, rectal, vaginal. So you can kind of put it almost anywhere. Ozone saunas. So that's going to be on your skin. So you're going to actually get in. Usually they're kind of like they're like a little enclosure, and then you'll kind of have like a lot of times it's like a neoprene sleeve around your neck. So again, you're not breathing it, but then you're having all of your skin is exposed to ozone. So there are benefits to all of these things. And if you guys have questions, we can get into that a little bit. But and then I was also going to, let's see here. I was also going to talk about IV ozone. And then I thought I would just throw in here that some of you may have heard of HBOT or hyperbaric oxygen, or EWOT, or which is exercising with oxygen therapy. So those have to do with oxygen, where the other ones are ozone. And they all have their own benefits. But ozone is what we're going to focus on today. So there is IV ozone, like I said over here, there's IV ozone, but there's different kinds. So there's direct IV, there's major autolytic chemotherapy, there's a 10 pass, or you could do any number of passes really, but 10 pass is the most common one that people hear about. There's something called EBO, and then there's EBO2. And so direct IV is going to be the easiest, sort of, in a way, from the person that's doing it, from our perspective. It's because all it is you're taking that gas, you start an IV, and you put the gas right into the vein. There are some inherent risks to that. It is valuable, but from my perspective and Drip IV's perspective, there's a little bit of danger to that also. We try to provide therapies that are very, very effective, but also very, very safe. And so we feel that direct IV is just not safe enough for our standards at our clinic. It doesn't mean it's a bad therapy, but that's how we feel. This other one the next one called MAH, or major autolytic chemotherapy, that's kind of like the most classic IV ozone, I would say. Sometimes people will even call it a 1 pass, because when we're talking about this 10 pass or a 3 pass, it's really just doing MAH 10 times or 3 times, or whatever the case may be. So MAH is it's been around for decades. It's super duper safe. It is extracorporeal. So in other words, we do take a little blood out. There's different ways that we do that. There's some clinics that use these vacuum jars. We use sterile saline bags. We mix the saline and some heparin with the blood, and then we ozonate that. And then we hang that up on a pole, and we let that go back into your blood, or back into your vasculature. So we find that to be a very, very nice tool. It's a lot less expensive than EBO2. That's probably one of my favorite things about it. So it's something that you can do if you want if you don't want to spend the same amount of money or time, but you want a hit of that ozone for whatever reason, then that can be very valuable. The 10 pass, like I said, is the MAH 10 times in a row. Our issue, we don't do 10 pass. Again, none of these things on the screen are bad, but just like from Drip IV's standpoint, that we don't do the 10 pass because um, it, all of these things are oxidative therapies. And so with the 10 pass, um, it gets to be a lot. So like I would say that MAH is a very safe level, like way below the safety level of what you can do with ozone. Um, and when you do it 10 times in one sitting, for a lot of people, it's still fine, but for some people, it's too much. And when you do those 10 passes in a clinic, you end up getting into this situation where you're trying to figure out who is it going to be too much for, and so on and so forth. So we don't offer the 10 pass either. So we do opt to offer MAH, which has been very valuable for us. Oftentimes, depending on what your goal is, you have to do several of the MAHs to have a therapeutic effect. So then we come to this EBO one. EBO is actually it hasn't been around as long as EBO2 actually. EBO2 was around first, and I'm going to get in, like I said, we're focusing on EBO2 tonight. So this is just kind of a little setting the stage here. But so I'll get into like what makes EBO2. But EBO is essentially the same thing almost, but less powerful. So uh, it's about a third as powerful as EBO2. There's a few different there's a few things going on. Partly, EBO practitioners are typically doing about 2 to 3 liters of blood, where EBO2 is more like 5 to 7, maybe even 8 liters. So there's just more blood being ozonated. Typically, EBO2 practitioners are using a higher gamma of ozone. Still a very safe amount, but so EBO is a great therapy. Sometimes it's a little less expensive, but for the money, we find that EBO is so much more powerful and usually just a little bit more than EBO. So at our clinic, we do MAH and EBO2. We feel like those are the two safest and most effective forms of IV ozone. So let's see here. So I'm just making a note here too. At the end, I might make a couple of comments about it as we go, but at the end, if anybody has questions, it's a really common question that we get that people want to know, well, should I do EBO2 or should I do true dose, or which is better, NAD or EBO2, or things like that. And basically they're all awesome, but they do different things. And so like I said, tonight we're focusing on EBO2, but I'm happy to answer questions about what the difference might be, because there is some overlap. So I'm going to start with this short little video. We actually have the full version on our website. This is just like, I think it's like a 45-second clip about, but Dr. Yu is on this. This gentleman here isn't Dr. Yu, but Dr. Yu is on here talking, and he's the man that innovated EBO2. And I think it's kind of fun to see him talk about it.
I can't even describe how many successes we have. And it's in every field. We have patients with emphysema, came in a wheelchair, they can barely move, and now they're a marathon. That's amazing. Leaky gut, ulcerative colitis, autoimmune disease. We can reverse those things. There's no need to live with these problems. IBS, Crohn's, liver disease affecting millions of people. And we just wipe that out via ozone.
Chronic infections, Lyme disease. We also see similar and very positive experiences with chronic viral infections as well.
Cardiovascular disease. There's no need for single vessel, triple vessel stenting. There might be no need for bypass surgeries in the future.
The EBO2 has the possibility to have profound improvements in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Okay. So we cut it off just to kind of, like I said, have it. Oh, let's see here. How do I go forward without?
I can't even.
There we go. So we just kind of cut that short just to not have it be super long. If you want to see the whole video, it is on our website and it's somewhere on YouTube. It's actually not our video at all. We like it because it features Dr. Louis Yu. So sometimes, let's see here. Susan, I see you're not muted. I'm going to ask you a question because you're not muted.
Okay.
Can you see where my cursor is?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. So a lot of times I just say EBO2. Sometimes you'll see this here where it says EBO2U, and the U is that's Louis Yu's, Dr. Louis Yu, that's his last name. So that's what that's referring to. And we put this there to kind of delineate between this this other idea of EBO. Again, there are similar benefits, but this is just stronger in a few different ways. Mostly we're doing more blood, we're doing more powerful ozone, and we have suction that is stronger to get out more inflammatory proteins and mycotoxins and things like that. This is kind of a busy slide, but if you can just kind of like, I'm not going to read down the whole thing, but you can kind of see here like the conditions that they help. There's a bunch of them. And I'm going to go back to what I said in the very beginning too. At Drip IV, we're really not trying to treat these diseases or disorders or conditions. What we're really trying to focus on, one of the reasons why this can help with so many different things actually, and why people sometimes even use it for wellness or anti-aging ideas, and then other people might come in, sometimes they have dementia or sometimes they have Parkinson's. We're not trying to treat the Parkinson's, we're trying to help the body get so healthy that it can kind of repair itself, and sometimes reverse those diseases. The body can actually do that. And other times just have more health and vitality, even if you still have that disease or disorder or condition. So I hope the difference there makes sense. So then you come over here, you can see the benefits. And if you look down here, reducing pathogen load, strengthening the immune system, reducing oxidative stress, and all this stuff, that's why it helps all these different things, because we're literally making the body work better. And so all of these things and many more can be helped by doing that. Okay. And I'm not going to go through this list either, because we're going to get into it a little bit more on a slide here in just a second. Like I said, this was developed by Dr. Louis Yu. Extracorporeal blood ozonation and oxygenation. That's what the O2 means. It's a little bit of a pun because O2 is also oxygen, but O2 is ozonation and oxygenation. So they call it a comprehensive protocol for blood purification. Drip IV, that's my clinic. We were the first ones in the Midwest to offer EBO2. So we started doing that actually shortly after the whole pandemic thing hit. In July, actually. July, I was connected with the Institute for Regenerative Medicine. I flew down there and got trained on how to do that. Received my first EBO2 myself and was also trained by their staff how to do it. In August of that year, we flew their head trainer up to Minnesota, up to our clinic. He helped us just get all set up in our space and run through the first few clients. So we've done hundreds and hundreds of these since then. Really, really good benefits. I am gonna read one testimonial for you guys, and there's a bunch more on the website. So if you wanna read more, there are tons of them on the website, and I'll read one later for you. So this is a full purification loop. Let's see here. Recirculates the entire volume of the patient's blood. Like I said, we schedule 90 minutes. It only takes about 45 to do the actual loop. The whole 90 minutes is so you can kind of come in, get comfortable in your space, get you some water, blanket, whatever we need, kind of talk to you about if you do have any concerns, things like that, getting the actual IVs started. There are 2 IVs. So if you haven't done it, I know actually a couple of you have actually already done an EBO2, but if you've never done it, it's like a dialysis. So usually we can start them in any vein, so you don't have to, but usually we'll start one in the right arm and one in the left arm. and you're pulling blood out. It goes through the whole process that we're about to go through here in a second. And then it comes back, the ozonated, filtered, irradiated blood comes back in the other arm. So we're going to go through that. We call it the Ferrari of all the ozone protocols, because IV ozone is already going to be the most powerful for most applications. And then EBO2 is going to be the most powerful out of all the IV applications. So here's a patient. This is a fun picture because if you can see where my cursor is again, you can kind of see the difference in that coloration of the blood. You can't see super great detail. I have a picture that's coming up on one of the next two slides that has a little bit better detail. It's a little closer up. But from a little bit of a distance, you can see this line is where we're drawing her blood from. And then it goes through all of this stuff. It goes through the filter. This is the filter here. And then it comes back down here, and it's much brighter red. It's kind of this dark maroon or merlot color. And then it comes back. It's almost like this bright cherry red. So what happens is, and actually, this is an older picture. We actually have a more advanced light system now. So we have an even more powerful one than these lights. But what happens is as we draw the blood out, it goes through a peristaltic pump, which is over here off this picture. And that's what pulls the blood out, pushes it through the filter, and goes in the other side. And another kind of cool thing too to see is when the blood enters the filter here, you can see it's still dark and deoxygenated. There is a little oxygen tank back here you can see. I'm going to point out at this point that this is medical grade oxygen, and that's really important with IV. Any IV ozone should be using medical grade oxygen to start. You can also get commercial grade or industrial grade oxygen. That's going to have like more nitrogen and things like that in it. And that is okay for like the ozonation machines that you're using. Like if you've ever used one to like clean out your car or even your home, you want to make sure you're not in the space that you're cleaning, but that can work pretty well to either kill airborne pathogens or get rid of odors that are unwanted, things like that. And you can use almost any oxygen for that because you're not going to breathe it anyway. But we don't want to put nitrogen byproducts and things into your bloodstream. So medical grade oxygen, I'm just letting you guys know that we get medical grade oxygen. So that's complete oxygen. There's not other gases in there. So that's really important. That's going to go over here again off the picture. There's a plasma generator or an ozone generator. The oxygen goes through that, it gets electrified, and then some of that oxygen gets turned into ozone. And how much electricity and how fast the ozone is moving through that is what determines how much of the oxygen turns into ozone. And the ozone, then the ratio of ozone to oxygen, we call that gamma. And so the higher the gamma, the more ozone, the more powerful the ozone is essentially. And there's a safety range for that. So you don't want it to be too high, but you want it to be high enough to have an effect. So, and we're always within that window. We usually start people a little bit on the lower side, and then as people are doing well, we increase it slowly throughout the time. And if you do multiple treatments, then a lot of times we speed that process up. This tube here is where the ozone and the oxygen are coming from the plasma generator, going into the filter here. And you can see as the blood is moving up, it's being exposed to oxygen and ozone. So the ozone and the oxygen push down and they come out through here. And then waste materials actually come out through here too. And there's an air compressor attached to that. So we're actually pulling it out pretty powerfully. So most of the treatment is happening right here, really. So, and the filter is going to capture heavy metals like mercury, cadmium, arsenic, lead, things like that. I want to talk about the difference between that versus like chelation therapy, just really briefly too, for people that know about that, because they are different. But it will remove toxins like heavy metals and lots of other toxins. It pulls out mycotoxins from mold. That's a really powerful part of the treatment too. A lot of people have been exposed to mold and aren't even aware. Sometimes we have tests from other physicians or we can do the test too. And sometimes we know people have been exposed to mold, and we've done before tests where the just going to mute that. We've done before and after tests where we can measure things like mold, like mycotoxins from different kinds of mold, and they'll be much reduced or even gone after even one therapy sometimes. We've done similar before and after labs too. CRP is another good one. If any of you have ever heard of that, C-reactive protein. That's a lab that's widely used for, especially for cardiovascular risk, but really just measuring inflammation in the body in general. And we've had people come in with very elevated CRPs and literally just one EBO2. Sometimes we recommend more than one for sure. There's different times where sometimes we recommend one or three or even more. But even one single EBO2 will typically lower the CRP drastically. So and it does that through a few different ways, but it's very powerful at reducing inflammation, great at pulling out toxins, including mycotoxins, but lots of other toxins. The filter also is going to filter out inflammatory proteins that our own body is making. And so the advantage here, or the benefit of that, is that inflammation is definitely a very important part of the healing process. In fact, if any of you have ever looked into the true dose therapy, we actually purposely in that one want the inflammatory system to be doing its thing for true dose to work. But this is a very different therapy. This is actually going to remove a lot of the body's inflammatory processes. So the pathways are still all there, but sometimes what happens is we start to get into this chronic inflammatory situation, and that creates a lot of disease states, pain, brain fog, and just a lot of disease states, I'll say. Every time somebody's coming in late, I have to let them in, and I'm not used to that, so I keep getting losing my train of thought when I'm hitting admit there. So sorry about that. Here's our closer up view from that last picture I was saying. This is just like a close-up view. This is going to be the blood that was coming out, and this does look different on different people, by the way. Some people, their blood's very dark. Some people, it's a little less dark. Some people do have like floaties in them. Like you can see macroscopic, like toxic fats that we're pulling out. That filter will capture that. And then after the blood's been filtered and ozonated, it's going to be clean and bright red, ready to go through that UV light and the red, blue, green, and amber lights, and then right back into the blood after that. Wanted to say at this point too that there are many studies, and you can just go right to PubMed, just type in ozone if you want, ozone therapy, IV ozone therapy, whatever you want. You can do different searches, and that'll yield different results on the PubMed searches. But this is a place where you can go, and if you're interested in the research about like the safety or the efficacy of this, tons and tons of research on this. Some of it's on EBO2, a lot of it's on MAH. Some of it is even on direct IV, which we don't do. But you'll find a lot of safety and efficacy studies there. So as I was already saying, there is a filtration system to this. And as as the blood is being filtered, it's also being ozonated. And then on its way back in after that, we send the blood through what's called a hemolumen. That's our current technology that we use. It's a very powerful light that has a red, blue, green, and amber light, as well as UVA and UVC lights. So the red, blue, green, and amber lights are all going to be working on different parts of the cell to actually energize those cells in the blood. And the UVA and the UVC are different wavelengths that are actually going to kill pathogens that might still be in the blood after it goes through the filter and the ozone. So it's just kind of a 1-2 punch. Whatever the ozone doesn't kill, the UV light will. So let me grab a quick drink here. Basically went through all of this already. This is just a picture of the filter. It's going to remove all those toxins. A lot of, it says fats and cholesterols, and I just thought I would take a second to say this can help to balance out cholesterol or blood lipids. It can help to bring the body into more of a homeostatic state where your blood pressure is normalizing too. Sometimes if you're still in some sort of process where the body's going to recreate that, it can be temporary. If we're able to, we can sometimes stimulate lasting results if we're addressing all the issues. And I'll give you one easy example with that. If you think about if you're living in a house with mold, if you come in and get an EBO2, it's going to be really good for you. But if you just go back and you're still living in the house that has still mold in it, you're just going to be re-exposed, of course. And depending on how bad that exposure is and how reactive your immune system is to that mold, the EBO2, the feeling that feels good, that if you're perceiving a difference, some of those benefits, whether you perceive them or not, they may last for a few days, a few weeks, a few months. It's all going to depend on how quickly you're being re-exposed. And a similar thing, we won't go through every single scenario, but I think the exposure to mycotoxins is a way to kind of help you guys understand. You have to also address whatever's causing the issue too. So if it was just like you were exposed to some illness, and then this is sometimes a 1, 2, 3 times going through this, that is enough to destroy that, and that never comes back. So like people always ask, how long does it last? And it's not that it lasts really, it's really just happening right then. You can get benefits up to, a week or 2, sometimes even 3 weeks later. You can still see improvements that much later. But it's not so much that it lasts as much as we're cleaning it right then, almost like we call it the oil change for the body. So if you think of that metaphor, it's like we're just cleaning it right then. And if you go and get the oil dirty again, then some of the things can come back. The symptoms can go back, stuff like that. So step 2 is the ozonation. I kind of went into that on one of our early slides, but I'll just dive in a little bit more about how ozonation works inside the body. It is definitely going to kill pathogens, so it'll kill things like bacteria, yeast, like candida, different kinds of mold. By the way, it's going to work the best in the bloodstream and any vascular spaces. So what I mean by vascular is I mean places that have good blood supply. So this can actually help to like if you have let's say you have fungus like under your toenails or something. That would be a time where you certainly could do things topically. You could get in ozone sauna, like I said in the beginning. That would be a time you could get in ozone sauna and you're kind of attacking it from the outside in. But if you're doing IV ozone, especially EBO2, not only are you going to be filtering out those mycotoxins and some of those like the cellular bodies of the candida, if you had bacteria, those types of things, but you're also going to have this effect on the inside of the body where you're ozonating from the inside out. And so because the skin is fairly vascular, you have really nice effects on the skin, including killing fungus, like I said, but also, we've seen lots of benefit with eczemas, different kinds of rashes that were even unexplained. We've had people come in, they didn't even know what it was from. The dermatologist wasn't identifying where it was coming from. We've seen a lot of success. Shingles too. Shingles works well with shingles because it's decreasing the viral load. You don't ever get rid of things like, a herpes virus or different viruses that can like live inside of the cells, or they have like in the neurons or other ways that they have of hiding. So you're not necessarily going to cure the disease, but because you are inactivating viruses and decreasing that viral load, then you have decreased symptomatology and you're not going to have those flares. So, but to get back to ozone in general, because it is, like I mentioned in the beginning, ozone is a very powerful oxidant, or another word for oxidant is pro-oxidant. It's very powerful. In chemistry, we would say it would rather be, if I can humanize it for a second, it would rather be oxygen. It's more stable as O2. So that third oxygen molecule wants to kind of reduce oxidize other things. It wants to be reduced. And so what that means is that's how it's killing those pathogens. But it also in the body stimulates the body's endogenous antioxidant production. So antioxidant pathways that we have in the body would be like glutathione, catalase, superoxide dismutase. We are constantly in our environment bombarded by different kinds of oxidants, and we need to be able to reduce those, is the chemical term for it, but we need to be able to deal with that. And we need antioxidants to do that. So you can take oral vitamin C or IV glutathione, or you can take different antioxidants, but we also make antioxidants ourselves. And ozone stimulates our body to make more of those antioxidants. And so that's another reason it's so powerfully anti-inflammatory. Part of it is the filter, like I said, we're pulling out those inflammatory components, but the ozone itself is very anti-inflammatory too. And that's one of the reasons why you can continue to see benefits for, days or weeks after the session, because the body is going to be in that heightened state of antioxidant production within the body. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And then the third step to the EBO2, if we're looking at like filtration, ozone, and then the UV light, or they sometimes will call it ultraviolet blood irradiation. So if you ever hear someone say your blood was irradiated, that's not the same thing as like, going and getting radiation treatment for the prostate cancer or something like that. It's not like that. We're just sending UV light through the blood. And that again is going to powerfully, that's going to kill things like all kinds of different pathogens. It'll inactivate viruses. It'll kill if you did have like spirochetes, yeast, like these different pathogens that create some of these chronic infections. The UV light will kill that just like the ozone will. So EBO2, the ultimate oil change for the body. Just kind of went over all of this. So the benefits, again, I know a couple of people got on a little bit later, but we are talking about EBO2, and we're talking about the method that Dr. Louis Yu innovated versus EBOO, or sometimes they'll say EBO, which is a less powerful version. But you can just go right down and you can read all the different things that it's helping. Because basically, if you think about it like the oil change for the body, you can just from a layman's term, just think of it as we're cleaning everything out and then we're supercharging that, your own cleaning system, if you will, your antioxidants and stuff. So we're cleaning things out and we're supercharging your cleaning system so that it can take it. I want to say too, in the very beginning, for the people, for those of you that were in the here at the start, I went through all those different IV ozone possibilities. One of the reasons EBO2 is actually the most powerful, it's like we use more ozone in your blood. We introduce more ozone to your system than any other IV ozone therapy. And I had mentioned that the 10 pass at Drip IV, we don't love that because it's good for some people, but we don't love it in our clinic because it's a little too powerful for a significant number of people. And you can get like these detox reactions and even you can cause some damage to the body sometimes. And so that MAH is very nice as a little hit of ozone. The 10 pass is stronger, not as strong as EBO2, but it's more aggressive and it's a little bit more dangerous. So the reason I'm saying all of this is because I want to highlight the fact that EBO2 is actually the most powerful and the most gentle. And the reason for that is to go back to the filter. The filter is what makes it so gentle. The ozone itself, the fact that we're putting so much ozone in all of that blood is what makes it so powerful. But the filter is what makes it so gentle. The filter is almost doing part of your bodies, like your liver, your kidneys, your other detox organs. It's almost taking some of the burden off of those organs because it's capturing a lot of those toxins, a lot of those, if you did have any pathogens, it's removing those. So your body then doesn't have to deal with that. It's almost like your detox organs get to go on a little vacation. So they come back all refreshed. Let me think here. There was one thing. I just had a thought that I wanted to share. So hopefully that'll come back to me. I am going to mention this increasing physical performance. And there's quite a range of what this can mean for people. We have people that come in that have Parkinson's disease that when they're done, and sometimes it's when they stand up, and sometimes it's like the next time they come in. So it really does, for some people, it takes, a day or a week for the changes to happen. But we see people with Parkinson's, sometimes with Parkinson's, there's this thing called masked faces. So it's very hard to display emotion, essentially. And I've literally seen people come in where they just had no emotion. The next time they were in, they're smiling at me like, "Oh, I feel so much better," and all this stuff. And then a lot of times their gait improves too. But on the other side too, like I said, EBO2 is very powerful from a wellness standpoint too. And I had mentioned those PubMed articles. I know I saw one of you guys come on here that I feel like, Alex, I know you're someone that likes to look up stuff. So you can go to PubMed and look up VO2 max. And for those of you that don't know, VO2 max is a way of measuring how efficient our bodies are at aerobically using oxygen for energy. And there's a lot of things we can do to make that more efficient. But regular ozone treatments, even the small ozone treatments, can actually, they've been shown in research studies to improve VO2 max. So that's going to help someone that's really, really hurting in a neurodegenerative process like Parkinson's. But it's also going to be great for an athlete, for like a high-end athlete that wants to improve their endurance performance, cycling, running, rowing, skiing, those types of things, especially. It's great for that too. So, and just walking around the house though, you're gonna feel better if if you're more able to utilize oxygen. So I mentioned drip IV. We were the first ones to bring EBO2 not only to Minnesota, but the entire Midwest actually. Back in 2020, we've done hundreds of them since then. We've had tons of benefits from them. I'm going to read this really quick. It's just one fun story that we have. This one's on our website. Tons of other success stories on there. I have a mycotoxin-induced illness. I worked with my functional medicine doctor to reduce the mold I carry in my body by using specific treatments like medications and a sauna. I had been doing these treatments for 3 years with slight improvements. My worst symptom is short-term memory loss. By the time I had approached the EBO2 therapy, my memory challenge had kept me from driving at night, and difficulties with word recall kept me from socializing. I was hesitant to spend the large amount of money on one treatment, but with my family's encouragement, I moved forward. I was very comfortable as I received the EBO2 treatment. It took just over 90 minutes. I noticed a difference the next day, but wanted to wait to see if my family noticed any difference. They did. I was recalling words readily. I was able to go back to driving at after dark. My personality went back to where I had been 3 years before. I highly recommend this treatment to people with mycotoxin and mold illness, and I plan to continue the treatments yearly. So this is a gal that she drives down from the cities to the cities from Duluth, and she'll come down the Duluth area, and she'll come down about once a year. And she gets this and she feels it really helps to keep her moving. And we have so many success stories with people that have autoimmune issues, the mold stuff, different chronic infections like Lyme, EBV, stuff like that. I thought I would address really quickly if it's safe. Like I said, you can look it up yourself. Please do go to PubMed, look up the safety, the efficacy. We've given close to 1,000 EBO2s. I think it's a little under, but we're getting close to that. I wanted to go over the things that can happen are that it can reduce your blood sugar. So this is a good question, and some people ask this question. Is there any negative things that can happen from EBO2? And the things that we've seen is it can cause some hypoglycemia. What we do is we check your blood sugar beforehand. We usually prompt you to like eat a nice meal and stuff ahead of time if you're able to. We have some other prep stuff that we send an email. We can kind of go over. But if you eat ahead of time, this typically isn't an issue, but you can get a little hypoglycemic. So especially if you are very insulin resistant, or especially if you're diabetic, it's easier to get into that hypoglycemia state. So it's possible to feel hypoglycemic. And, that can be like, you could get a little dizzy, you could feel lightheaded, you could feel a little cold or thirsty, things like that. And the way that we manage that is if you're feeling anything like that at all, we've just got some organic apple juice in our fridge, and we can just let you sip on that a tiny bit. Typically that sugar gets into your system, raises you back up just a little bit, and that's all you need. You're also welcome to bring, your own concoctions or stuff if you have other things you want besides our apple juice. The other issue that can come up is people can become vasovagal. And so I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but I think a lot of people have heard some people, not most, but a number of people just have a hard time with needles or seeing blood. And a lot of times, by the time they come in to see us, they already know that. So, and maybe you're one of those people. But some people, they'll see a needle and they'll just go, oh, and they'll kind of pass out almost. So if you're one of those people, we're using needles and you're going to see blood. So it is possible to kind of, you can even faint, you can get lightheaded from that kind of thing. So it is possible to have that vasovagal kind of reaction. I mean, we have a little bit of peppermint oil that kind of is like anti-nausea for people. We even have smelling salts, and if it, if it ever came to like an emergency, I mean, we are fully equipped with, an AED and EpiPens and all the emergency things and stuff. But it really doesn't come to that. But I just like to like be really, upfront about what is possible. And these are kind of the two things that are possible. So we kind of have our ways that we we kind of prep people to avoid those things. But those are the things that you'd be looking out for. And if you're concerned about those, talk to us ahead of time. These are the contraindications. Sometimes these things mean that it's just not a good idea, like EBO2 is not for you. And other times it means we can still do it, but we might need to develop a plan for you. You might need to talk to our medical director and just kind of develop a plan so that's safe for you. But these are some of the things that you'd want to be thinking about, talking to us ahead of time. We would want to know if you have these things. So very, very bad diabetes, if you've had a recent myocardial infarction, if you have Graves' disease. So I won't list all these out. I'll just kind of, instead of reading all of them, I'll kind of list them here. We'll go over these with you ahead of time. Like we would want to know about these. So we ask you about these before you do this. But here's just kind of a list. So if you want to, if anybody's taking a picture or anything like that, you can kind of see all of them right here. All right. And then, so if you wanna schedule an EBO2, we're gonna get into questions here in a minute too, but you can call us if you do have questions that you can ask questions here too. We're not gonna get into like, we're not diagnosing anything or doing anything like that here. But if you have general questions, feel free to ask them here. But you can also call this number and we can set up a consult with you. Like I said, it is a 90-minute procedure. We do have prep. Like I say, like I'm saying here, you will get an email about the prep, but I'll just run through it because sometimes people are interested. We do want you to fully hydrate for a few days ahead of time. That's the best, just to get you can do the EBO2 without doing any of these things, but you'll get the most benefit if you do these things. Everybody should always be fully hydrated anyways, but it's just most of us aren't. I think it's like 75% of people are not fully hydrated. So you want to be drinking enough water ahead of time. It's a good idea to have, a full meal before you come in. And then there's a few supplements. You don't have to take all of these, but again, they can help with just optimizing the therapy. So taking enough of a good clean fish oil. I mean, I like to sneak this one in because a good clean fish oil is good for like a billion different things in your body anyway. So you're getting some other health benefits, but it's also a natural anticoagulant. So a lot of people do have rouleau or thickened blood in response to different things, maybe mold, maybe different infections, other environmental toxins. So it's not going to be like a heparin or something like that, like a prescription drug. But one of the little benefits is this will help to thin your blood slightly. Endocalyx is another one. Endocalyx, it does take a little bit longer to work than a fish oil. Like a lot of these things, you'll get some benefit even if you do it like a day or two ahead of time. Some of them you'll get more benefit if you do it for a long time. Endocalyx is one where you can start to see benefit right away, but you're going to get more if you do it for like weeks or months versus days. You'll have a little bit of an anticoagulant effect with it as well, but one of the nicest things about the endocalyx is that it's going to really do wonders for your cardiovascular system. And we honestly could have a whole webinar about endocalyx and the glycocalyx lining of your blood vessels. But endocalyx is a great one to do leading up to an EBO2. Nitric balance, there's a little bit of overlap with endocalyx on this, but nitric balance is going to stimulate healthy nitric oxide stimulation. So there's different benefits to that, but one of the things for EBO2 is it kind of makes your blood vessels a little bit bigger and more robust, and it just makes it easier to get a nice therapy. Natozyme, not everybody needs to do this either, but it is another one that there's a number of benefits to this. It's a natural anticoagulant again. It does help to deactivate spike proteins from the COVID virus, so that's really nice. Bind is one that can be really nice afterwards. It's just a way to help bind toxins out of the body. The filter in this really does remove a lot of those toxins anyway. So again, not necessary, but if you're just trying to optimize everything, it's one that I recommend that you do after the therapy to just get any more toxins out. Because what'll happen is you take all those toxins out of the blood, but you still have these toxins. Oh, I just remember what I forgot earlier. The chelation piece. I wanted to talk about the difference between taking out the heavy metals with EBO2 and the chelation. So this kind of goes right in with that. So EBO2, what we're going to do is we're going to take those toxins out of the blood, and then there's still toxins in a lot of your other spaces like bone, brain, especially fat. Toxins can be stored in these different areas. And so EBO2 is going to remove all of that from the blood, and then the stuff that's in those other tissues can kind of slowly and gently migrate into the bloodstream again. And so you can see how, like, if that happened over time, and then you did another EBO2, clean that blood out, and then you're getting it more out of the fat again, and then cleaning that out. The more times you do that, you're getting those toxins out, but very slowly and very gently. Chelation is a really cool therapy. We don't currently offer it at Drip IV. It is definitely like anything, I guess, anything sort of like this, but chelation is another one where it's like you have to really do it correctly. Okay. And what I mean is it's a very powerful therapy, and a lot of people have a lot of challenges when they're going through chelation therapy. And so this is an alternative to chelation therapy. It's not chelation therapy. Both of them will get rid of toxins. EBO2 is going to do it more gently. Chelation will probably do it more quickly for certain toxins, but you have to be really careful about how you manage that and what are you doing with the toxins, because the filter in EBO2 is getting rid of the toxins. With chelation, you're kind of like ripping those toxins out of like bone and fat and everything, and then your body has to try to excrete it. So you have to just make sure you're being careful with that chelation thing. So hopefully that makes sense where the bind comes in. So we're just having a quick note here too, that if you are going to do a true dose, a great time to do an EBO2 is like a day or two ahead of time. It doesn't have to be exactly like that, but we don't do EBO2s for at least 10 days after true dose, maybe longer. So that's how you would manage that if you're trying to do both of them. So I guess I'll just jump into questions here. We've pretty much covered most of the stuff that I wanted to do. So just let me know. Does anybody have any questions? Faye, just so you know, I muted you earlier because there was a little bit of noise coming from your end. So anybody that wants to ask questions, that just, you guys can unmute or whatever.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you do it on pets, actually. Would you do it on pets or humans only?
Humans only for us.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that, I mean, actually almost everything at the clinic could be good for a pet probably, but we don't have a veterinarian on staff, and that would be a whole different thing. Cool
Right.
question, but
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that does EBO2 on pets, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean nobody does it, but we don't.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it either. I've heard of ozone baths, but
Oh,
that's it.
sure. Yeah, right. Yep.
Do you do this only in your Wyzetta clinic?
That's correct. Yeah, we do the MAH that I was talking about in the beginning. We do that at all of the satellite clinics. We do concierge drips for like in your home or place of work or things like that. But we can't do any ozone outside of our clinics because we have to have like medical grade oxygen tanks and plasma generators and all that stuff. So we have that at all of our clinics. But the EBO2 specific stuff is only in Wyzetta.
Mhm.
Got one thing here in the chat. Yeah.
I have a question. Well, true dose is relatively new, right?
Did you say true dose?
True dose, yes.
Yeah, so I mean it's very new to our clinic. We did our first run of it on February 29th and March 1st. So we're doing another one in April. And but the man who innovated that, Tapley, he's been doing it for about 6 years. So it's, I mean, a lot of times when you're trying to get the word out about stuff, it takes a while, but I think he told me he has about 40 clinics around I think he meant in the US. I'm not sure if he's outside of the US, but I think he has about 40 clinics that are doing it. And yeah, so that, I don't know if that answered the
Okay.
question.
And that kind of just kind of balances that's just kind of just really balance out your
Oh yeah,
supplement.
like
Or
what does Trudeau's do? Is that what you're?
yeah, yeah.
I would, um, I'm gonna say if you want a detailed answer, you should check out our Trudeau's call because it's pretty in depth actually, to really understand all of it. I highly recommend you check that out. And we do have that available for people. I'll see if I can get the link here and put it in the chat. But otherwise, just text us at 612-516-3772. Text us or call us there, and we'll shoot you the link there too. But the short answer is Trudose is stimulating a healing response in the body. It's a systemic therapy, so it can work on anything in the body from a broken toe to brain fog. It can really kind of affect almost everything. And it's stimulating your own body's healing response.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that I think that's the shortest answer. So I've got questions coming up here. Yes, it's okay to do EBO2. Plavix is not a contraindication. If you do, if for anybody that does have questions about their specific meds, I do encourage you to speak with us directly about it too. But yeah, Plavix is not really an issue. There are not any problems with bone density drugs, and so Timothy, I'm going to go ahead and just say that you're kind of chatting this to everyone, so I think I can use your name here. I know before you were asking about Fosamax and I forget the name of the other one. You were asking about it with for Trudose, and I did speak to our medical director. Not an issue with Trudose, not an issue with EBO2. Prolia, okay, yeah, not an issue for either one. So, and I'm not familiar with Repatha, but most cholesterol lowering drugs not gonna be an issue. Like statin drugs, certainly not. So I don't know if Repatha is a statin or not, but I'm pretty sure that it's not going to be an issue. But ultimately, any questions like that, our medical director can answer that. Any other questions? Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for showing up tonight. Oh, geez, I almost forgot. So for showing up tonight, we are giving 10% off if you want an EBO2. So, all you have to do to get that is call the clinic, or text them. Again, it's 612-516-3772. And just tell them that you were on the webinar tonight. And they know to honor a 10% discount off of your one EBO2. I'm just chilling here just for a second in case anybody has questions, but if not, then we'll hop off.
Thanks much. This has been great.
Oh, good. I'm glad it was helpful. Thanks, Susan.
Very
Hey,
helpful.
thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks. And I'll be seeing you tomorrow too. So, from Ham Lake.
Steven, I heard something about Ham Lake tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll see you up in Ham Lake tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you up in Ham Lake tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you tomorrow, Steven.
Sounds good.
Bye.
All right, I gotta run. Bye.
Alex, you were really quiet, but thanks for coming on.
Hey, yeah, my housemates came out and started talking to me right there at the end. I don't know if you called me at the end or not.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I listened to almost all of it. That was pretty good.
Good. Good. Okay. Good. I'm glad. All right. Well, take care, guys.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep. Bye.